A big day for President-elect Donald Trump as some major appointments for top positions in his administration are announced. Alabama Republican Senator Jeff Sessions for Attorney General, former Defense Intelligence Chief, retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn for National Security Advisor, and Kansas Republican Congressman Mike Pompeo for CIA Director. All three have been outspoken critics of President Obama's counterterrorism and national security policies. Also, this afternoon, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that President-elect Trump is considering retired General David Petraeus for Defense Secretary. And we are delighted to be joined by Trump Transition Senior Advisor Kellyanne Conway. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Kimberly.
We're very excited to have you on the Five.
So we're going to keep you here.
Exactly. And this was great because it was kind of a last-minute thing, but shows what a worker you are, that you're like, no problem, I'll come straight over. And at 4 o'clock.
I skipped the motorcade to Bedminster because I needed to finish a little bit of work, and I thought, let's just go over and have some fun.
Did you take the subway?
Happy hour. I did not. I walked.
You did?
I walked over there today. I walked too because the traffic is crazy
yes, it's
over
just
there.
easier.
I love this.
And it's 67 degrees.
Well, I'm a man of the people.
Exactly. And as long as you have some sensible shoes, which I specialize in, you'll be okay. Yeah, exactly. All right, so we want to hear all the latest and greatest about the transition. Obviously, some big announcements today. What kind of feedback are you getting, and how do you feel about those choices?
Excellent choices across the board, Kimberly. These are men of great character, all of whom are qualified to do their jobs on day one, which should be really the first criterion for any presidential appointment. And folks who are loyal to President-elect Trump's vision of the way national security and counterterrorism should go. And in the case of Jeff Sessions of the Department of Justice, I think it's been a very politicized department of late. Hopefully he can bring it back to the calibration where it should be. He's been a well-respected federal prosecutor for 15 years, obviously a United States Senator from Alabama for about 20 years, a U.S. Attorney, I believe, from Alabama. So this is a man who spent his life in legislation and law enforcement. I've gotten to know him very well over the years in his legislative capacity, and then certainly as two of the members of Mr. Trump's core team during the campaign. I think they're all excellent choices, and we shouldn't be surprised that President-elect Trump is staffing up with people who share his views on these issues that the American people apparently decided that he would have the upper hand in governing.
And his vision for America. As President Obama once said, elections have consequences. Bowling.
National Security Day was today.
Yes.
And you announced 3 national security advisors, 2 people in the cabinet, 1 advisor. Congratulations, first of all. Number 2, can we put something to rest right here, right now, that the transition team is not in disarray? I mean, this is the media narrative that's been going on for days, and here you have basically 5 announcements in the first 9 days or 10 days since he's been elected. That's fantastic. And firsthand, I will tell you, it's running smoothly.
It really is, and not since we heard again and again that we had no path to victory have I heard something so inaccurate that the transition is not going smoothly. And I appreciated comments just this week, just yesterday really, from David Axelrod, from Vice President Biden, both basically conveying the same message to America, which is you don't form a government overnight. And in the case of Vice President Biden, he very clearly said that he feels confident that Trump and Pence will be ready on day one, that Obama and Biden, were not ready on day one. You can't expect them to. I know the media want stories and names and personnel and then going to attack the people that he puts forward as an extension of the campaign that should be over by now. But at the same time, give us time to really vet and interview. I mean, Trump has spent the better part of 8 days mainly in Trump Tower, doing nothing but talking to heads of state, interviewing candidates for his senior staff, for his cabinet, taking the counsel of his advisors and from many outside folks who are calling him. And you see now he's talking to everybody from Carly Fiorina to Ted Cruz. Jeb Bush called him. He's meeting with Mitt Romney tomorrow in Bedminster.
I have to follow up, though, Kellyanne. You know this is coming.
Uh-oh.
What are you going to do? And I honestly think you have to be there. You have to. If anyone knows that man, you know that man.
Well, I know him enough to respect him. I have great affection for him and his family. I'm very happy he's going to be the President of the United States. It's good for the country. And I will serve in my best and highest use. We're just trying to figure out what that is. But he has welcomed me to his administration. And I've said this before, I'll say it here.
What do you want, Kellyanne?
What I want is for my 4 small children to not suffer because their mom is in the White House.
Children, always the children getting in the way.
Not at all. But I would be a hypocrite to say otherwise. But they're great kids, and they'll flourish either way. But I
Good
do
for you.
look. It's an important decision. There are personal and professional considerations at hand, and I know I'll be there for he and Vice President-elect Pence, whom I've been close to for many years, who I was with today, and I think is going to be a phenomenal vice president. But we're figuring that out. I told him, don't worry about me. It'll all come together, but I'll be there.
Were you
Like a
serious?
typical amazing mom, not making it about herself. So we respect that. I think that's important because your role as a mother is hugely important, as to many mothers across the country too. Dana, you have a question.
Well, I have lots of questions. I guess I want to ask about the news about, well, I don't know if it's news, but the Wall Street Journal reporting about David Petraeus, because I think that would be amazing. And you probably can't comment on it because I know what your position is. So can I ask you about it?
Sure, you can ask
And then
me.
you can say no comment?
Just so it's on the record.
Well, but I will tell you about David Petraeus and others. We just seem to have a very long list of possible candidates for each of these positions. I've seen the lists, and they're robust. They're filled with people who would not surprise you, and then they're filled with a couple of people who would surprise you. But I think what President-elect Trump is trying to do, Dana, is really think about how everybody would work together. And I know in the heat of the campaign, in the fog of war, people have their gladiator costumes on and they look at each other through a political lens. But the fact is, you have to look past that when you're forming a government. I don't want Donald Trump to turn into some mushy Hallmark card. You know, he's a tough leader, and America elected him to be a tough leader and to do some really significant things in short order, and indeed he will. But that aside, this is a man who, in business for many years, knows how to build consensus, knows how to cut deals, knows how to negotiate, but in the best interest of what he is, what his fiduciary duty is. And his fiduciary duty here is to the American people and those that he promised to represent. Having said that, he's meeting with Mitt Romney tomorrow. Doesn't mean it leads to a cabinet position. He's had probably 70 meetings, 60 meetings. Not all of them are going to get cabinet positions. But he learns a great deal. I think in the case of General Petraeus, obviously is well respected across the aisle. You want the best and the brightest in your administration. This is about America. This is about the world. And in the case of Governor Romney, I think these are two businessmen who will talk about job creation. And I think a lot of what Mitt Romney talked about in 2012 about the world has become true, actually.
That's true. Great point, especially as it relates to Russia. Greg, a sensible question.
A sensible?
Never mind. Skipping to one.
When I want to assess a situation, I call it the RVE. That's the reverse view equation. I turn on the view, and whatever they say, I assume the opposite is actually the truth. And they are apoplectic about these appointments. They're worried about General Flynn. They're worried about Jeff Sessions. Everybody's a racist. What do you make of the hysteria that always seems to happen when there's a Republican in office at the start?
I make of it that many people are still fighting the last war, meaning from 9 days ago, the campaign. Folks, the campaign is over. He is your president, even if you have hashtag not my president. I think, Greg, that everybody was asking the right questions about the wrong candidate and their supporters. They were saying, will Donald Trump accept the election results?
Right.
Will he stop the protesters from... Are you kidding me? I couldn't even walk to work last Saturday. There were 20,000 people there not to greet me, called protesters, and some of them not so nice, by the way.
Yeah.
And the fact is that you have to get over it, and you have to realize that no one Donald Trump appoints will make them happy. That's just a fact, because the wrong guy won. They were for the other team, and they're still for the other team, and they're not yet quite Team America, and they should be. So that goes for a whole lot of them. The other thing is, I think most of the media did the world a disservice by not preparing them for the possibility of Donald Trump winning the presidency. It simply was not part of the conversation when it should have been. The cues and clues were there all of the time. People wanted change. They did not trust or like her much. She didn't have a positive, uplifting, aspirational message at the end. He did, actually, at all. Her campaign was about him, and his campaign was about people. So I think that people should have really looked at the electorate differently. I still feel like a lot of these folks who cover America don't understand America. And if that is the one thing I can offer from this election, it's stop listening to each other. You know, those who are breathing the rarefied air of politics or media or the donor class. Stop listening just to each other and start listening to people, because they were very honest from the very beginning about what their fears and frustrations and aspirations were, and they brought it right to the ballot box.
He was listening.
Are you glad you didn't go against Bernie? Do you think Bernie would have had a better chance than...
Oh, you mean the general?
Yeah.
No, I don't think this country would elect a socialist. But I did. But
Barack Obama.
But watching the
Another socialist.
watching the Democratic primary, we did see a great deal of vulnerability in Hillary Clinton, and we actually chose states early on like Iowa and then Michigan where she had not done well in the primaries, especially Iowa 2008, where she came in third after Barack Obama and John Edwards. And we thought she really never went back to Michigan to try to sew that up, heal that. I think she went to Flint and a couple of other places. But these states, a lot of these places felt like the Donald Trump message writ large. And people forget Bernie Sanders won 22 states and millions and millions of votes, and threw some shade at her this week on The View, in fact.
On The View, in fact.
Kellyanne, I know you was a pollster, so let me ask you two quick polling questions. One is, when you look at Corey Lewandowski going over to London, to the Oxford Union, saying it was Comey in the last weekend that really shifted this election and gave it to Donald Trump. And of course, Donald Trump has said he doesn't know what he's going to do with Comey, and Hillary Clinton has said she believes Comey's responsible. What does the pollster think?
The pollster doesn't agree with either of those wholesale, and here's why. The poll started to tighten before the Comey announcement on October 28th, and it was due in large part to Trump being out there talking about Obamacare. Because at that moment, people were opening up their mailboxes and firing up their computers, and they were getting Obamacare premium increase notices. And Obamacare really is the issue in the off-year elections won, as you know, 2010, 2014.
Absolutely.
That won the Republicans everything. They couldn't do it in 2012 because they nominated the political cover and inspirational blueprint for Obamacare in Romneycare. But that aside, people have felt really frustrated that Obamacare for many Americans is the best example of how invasive, intrusive, expensive.
You think it was Obamacare that did it, not Comey?
No, I think it's a combination of things.
That was a combination of
it was a combination of things.
And then finally,
Comey well, and let's be fair. Hillary said on that Friday night, when Comey made his announcement, October 20th, she came out and said, people have already decided about how they feel about the email scandal. Her advisor said on the Sunday shows, it's, quote, baked in the cake. So they can't have it both ways. They can't say nobody cares, and then when she loses, oh my God, this man cost us the election. Listen, she's been running for president for decades.
But
and definitely the last 8 years.
That was Corey said that.
She's been running for president for a very long time. She had all this time to find a better way to connect with the American people, to really scratch the surface of the issues that they tell pollsters they care about. It just wasn't there.
Lack of capacity, and it wasn't heartfelt. She didn't have it in her, so that's what happens. All right, don't go anywhere. Would you ever want to? Because Kellyanne Conway is staying with us. We're going to be right back. Lots more on The Five.
Have a formal and informal position in this administration. They have much to contribute to the conversation, and I'm just very happy to see that they will be.
Eric Bolling.
So I can't give up. I mean, the people, the Never Trumpers that I fought over the last year and a half, who were, and that titular head of the Never Trumpers, Mitt Romney, I got to say, that was a lot. It's blowing my mind, but I'll get over it because Donald Trump sees, look, he was a transition
artist.
At least
he's Governor Romney.
He was a change artist. He took the Olympics from negative to profitable. Yeah. I get that. Can I just ask you this very quickly? The national security briefings. This is a big deal.
Yes.
How's the president-elect handling the new information?
And the vice president-elect also is in on those briefings. Fabulously. I mean, he knows it's private, it's confidential, it's serious stuff. He's listening. I find Donald Trump to be an excellent listener and an excellent learner. He makes his own decisions. That campaign was his voice, his choice. He was the messenger. Those were his messages. But people would be astonished, and I think very heartened, Eric, to see what a great listener he is among those around him. And I've seen that on full display since he was elected. I am not in those national security briefings, but I know that they're taken very seriously. And I think the public should respect the fact that any commander-in-chief and president should not be divulging what they learn there.
By the way, we have to go, but I understand he's going to settle the Trump U lawsuit, and was that your advice?
Yes. I'm happy that he's doing it, but it was not my advice. I stopped practicing law a long time ago. I'm a happy person.
Yeah, but you're an advisor.
12-step program and everything.
Kellyanne is staying with us for another segment. Right. Don't go away. Plenty more for us to talk about.
On the campaign trail, then GOP nominee Donald Trump often promised he would keep jobs right here on U.S. soil if elected. Well, it appears the president-elect Trump may already be keeping his campaign pledge. Ford confirms one of its production lines is not moving to Mexico as planned, instead choosing to keep making their Lincoln MKC in Louisville, Kentucky. Last night, Mr. Trump tweeted, quote, "I worked hard with Bill Ford to keep the Lincoln plant in Kentucky. I owed it to the great state of Kentucky for their confidence in me." Meanwhile, some are saying that Trump had nothing to do with it. Trump transition senior advisor Kellyanne Conway is back with us. I got to say, on the surface, it looks like, hey, Ford, if you plan on moving to Mexico and shipping a car back into the U.S. with a 35% fee, that's quite an incentive to stay.
It's a big incentive to stay. And look, this is one of the issues that Donald Trump highlighted from the beginning. Nobody was talking about illegal immigration. Nobody was talking about trade. Nobody was talking about the fact that jobs have been shipped to China and Mexico and actually could be brought back. And so he elevated these issues from day one. He was at center stage in that first Fox News debate on August 6, 2015, and never lost the top spot, and always stayed true to these issues. And I think you see that now as president-elect. He's taken calls from people like the Ford Corporation, and they're having meaningful discussions. Also, people shouldn't forget, this is what businessmen do. They try to solve problems, fix things, build consensus, and deliver and
But can I ask follow up on this? Threatening a tariff, which is not a capitalistic kind of thing, does nothing about the real problem, which is the price of a union worker. That problem is still there. How is he going to deal with that?
He's dealt with it on the campaign a little bit, Greg, in that, and I think it worked, because look at how many union households went for him. I mean, overwhelmingly dramatic. And we saw it in the data early on. We saw in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in Michigan, it turned out, in other places, that the rural voters and the union households, many of whom are still registered Democrat to this moment, went overwhelmingly for him. And I think they too feel that unions have outlived themselves in many places, and that it's also hurting those in the private sector, hurting entrepreneurs who are trying to attract and retain talent, or trying to grow their business and succeed and prosper. So I think it's a whole basket of issues. And even, I just want to get back to illegal immigration for a moment. Donald Trump's really the first person, after Jeff Sessions in the Senate, to talk about illegal immigration through the lens of the American worker. So the question was always, what's fair to the illegal immigrant? He also asked, what's fair to the American worker who's trying to compete for the same job? And so it all comes from that same, I think, basket of issues and economic concerns.
So can I also throw in there that unions love the idea of breaking these trade agreements, because jobs, manufacturing jobs specifically, will come back to the United States. KG.
Okay, so these are some of the things that he talked about that really resonated, because part of the theme of his campaign was about the working men and women that felt like they had been forgotten. So doesn't it make sense, essentially, that, you know, a businessman needs to come to the table, and essentially to the table in the White House, to try to encourage the economy and encourage U.S. companies to come here? What are some of the ideas in terms of taxes and regulation that would support that move?
Well, his tax plan cuts the corporate tax rate to 15%, and I know a lot of people are excited about that. It reduces capital gains. He unleashes energy investments and exploration, Kimberly, in a way that would spur economic growth overall. We have energy under our feet and off on our shores as I sit here, and yet we're relying on foreign dictators to supply an awful lot of our energy. Also, he talks about infrastructure investments, and he talks about immediately doing away with this Obamacare penalty, where you have a a non-choice choice. You can buy government-run health care, or you can pay a penalty. So all of that put together, he also anticipates over 3.5%, maybe 4% growth. Why are people laugh at that? Why are we settling for 1.2% growth? Why is that enough? So that whole tax package that anybody can pull up on our website and part of his 100-day plan, I think pieces of that are going to roll out very quickly once he gets inaugurated.
Let me get Dana in here.
It could also maybe happen on day one, possibly with executive orders. But I know that certainly on the manufacturing side, one of the things from a policy wonk standpoint as well, CAFE miles per gallon standards, and that's one of the things that the car industry was saying, you are killing us over here, plus all the added costs for what you were just talking about in terms of Obamacare. Do you anticipate that happening pretty fast?
That's something he'll definitely take a look at very seriously early on in his administration, because, as you say, it's really it's a political capitulation to some of the special interest groups who want that done. And you know, Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton on their side of the aisle talked an awful lot about climate change and global warming and fossil fuels, of course, which they seem to like to consume but don't seem to like you to consume. And Donald Trump won. And I think that conversation is because people are so tired of being told what to think and how to act and what to drive and how much water should come out of the sink when they're washing their hands in a public restroom. And no, I do think you're going to see very swift action very early on in the term.
Let's go on.
Kellyanne, so we're looking forward now to confirmation hearings in the Senate. And again, what we can anticipate, you spoke about this in the opening segment, is a lot of criticism about the selection of Jeff Sessions, the senator from Alabama, and his history. He was the first federal judge appointed by Ronald Reagan who was rejected by the Senate
30-some years ago?
Oh, well, I think we're more racially sensitive today than we were 30 years ago.
What
so
are you
I don't
saying
think that's
about him? Because
well,
I disagree.
The question is, how does President-elect Trump expect to deal with so much, and the Democrats are just going to be tough on this. I don't doubt that he'll get confirmed with the Republican majority.
Then why put the country
but it's
through
gonna be
it?
Tough.
Then why put the country through it? What are they doing, Juan? Why won't they accept this man and his appointments? He is the president. He was elected fairly and squarely. Name 5 people not named Clinton, Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Barack Obama, or Michelle Obama, that the Democrats would accept right now as a
No one.
I mean,
Well,
it's no one.
I
That's the
think
thing.
Mike
That's why we can't
Pompeo
take
is
it
going to be
seriously.
fine. I'm just saying I think you can't turn away from the racial concerns in the country.
I think that is so
The problem
incredibly.
is that
That's
there's
so
no evidence
incredibly.
to support that he is racist.
Yeah,
You're assuming a fact that has not been proved.
No,
and is
I'm
in fact
talking about
incorrect.
Sessions, who was
I'm talking-
rejected
and
by
so
the
are we.
Senate over
Is
this
there a
issue.
question
30-some years ago. Is there a question?
On
The man
something
since
there
then
was no
he's been a
basis
federal
in truth.
prosecutor. He's been a U.S. attorney. He's been a United States senator for 20 years, and we're raising thank you.
Prosecuted
This
the
is a
man
guy,
who-
Dana,
he's a man-
who said, oh, the Klan's okay with him until he learned they smoked
No,
dope.
that
Was that about the time Robert Byrd was?
He has
He
a
got
very
a death penalty
substantial, he has
for
a
the
very
Ku Klux Klan
substantial
guy.
civil rights record that is respected by
No.
those.
Can I bring up just one
Those are the
good news
facts.
for Jeff Sessions?
Yeah,
The
go
people
ahead.
that rejected him 30 years ago, most of them are dead.
All right, they're yelling in my ear because Kellyanne has other appointments she's got to get to. Kellyanne,
Really?
thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
for having
joining
me.
us.
It was awesome.
Stay right there because Facebook Friday is up next.
I don't understand what you're saying anymore, Kimberly. We have to talk about this privately.
Start reading.
All right, from Thomas, Facebook, okay? It's Thomas T, short for tank. Have you always been conservative or liberal? If not, what changed you?
Oh, right.
Kimberly?
Well, there are those since I was, from San Francisco.
Of course.
And previously married. They said, well, wait a second. You were married to the mayor of San Francisco, so does this mean you're No. I registered as a Republican in college at UC Davis, and he was aware of that.
Just shows you
Worked
that
as a
love
prosecutor.
conquers all, doesn't
Well,
it? Well, at least
some things.
temporarily. Because
Some
you did
things.
get divorced. Love conquers all for approximately 3.5 years.
And what love doesn't conquer, the law can fix.
Yes.
Holy smokes.
In a nice way. Hearts.
Fantastic one. Thoughts? Were you always a crazy liberal?
Yes.
I'm only a crazy liberal when I'm with you guys,
Exactly.
as
Yeah,
compared
most
to
people
you
think
guys.
that,
You're
the
moderate.
Democrats think you're quite moderate.
Yeah.
Moderate, you think I'm conservative. So,
Keeps-
because I
depends on
work
the company.
Yeah.
But that's all.
No, it's true. I mean,
That's the
look,
only
if I
reason.
look, I'm going to tell you something. In fact, I went through this very day. That if when I'm talking to most people, they say, "Hey, you're a pretty conservative black guy," and I
On
say,
what issue?
"Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it." But I'll say this.
I mean, he's for
Let me
school
answer-
choice, which is...
okay.
But let me just say,
Champion of charter school.
No, but I go to church every Sunday. I am a big family guy. So and a pro business, I'm definitely a capitalist.
Yeah.
So on all those, people would say. But I will say this to you: I have children who are very conservative,
Right.
active.
You gave birth to Republicans.
And I think the reason there is
His
when you
wife
go through. Yeah, my wife had the lease has a lot to do with it. But I will say that I think if you live in a big city and you see some of the excesses of Democratic domination of big cities and the limited sort of orthodox thinking that applies to those cities and especially minority communities, it could make you change your mind.
There you
Gregory.
go. Similar, Eric.
So I grew up an athlete, played baseball, and then I started trading on the trading floor. I was apolitical. Never had a political bend to my. Grew up poor and all that stuff, and it was neither right nor left. But when I went to work for CNBC and saw what money and saw the economy, how the effects of taxes and regulation, what that had on the economy and spending power, I realized that conservative and liberalism are so vastly different for the economic well-being of the country and the individual. I just migrated this way, and it's been
Can I tweak
11,
you?
11
followed
years.
the money, and it
Follow
brought
the
you
money.
to the
I
right.
think-
But did you follow the money in your wallet? Was that what changed?
No, because I made money before I went to CNBC. It wasn't.
No,
it
but
wasn't
you made
that.
big
It was just
money.
when
No,
I
but he
realized
knew
that
how to
the
make
economic
money.
engine that lowering taxes really is. That's why I am so high on this corporate tax from 35 to 15. I think that is what's going to cause a 4% growth.
Let's hope it doesn't cause inflation.
Dana.
I would say because I grew up in Wyoming and my grandfather was a county commissioner for Weston County, Republican guy, and I just grew up hearing about how federal government was strangling smaller states or states with a low population like Wyoming. But I would say that when I really knew was in my first job at a network affiliate. Right out of at graduate school, when I was working at Channel 3 in Peoria, that was when the Republicans had just swept, sort of like this year, where Republicans swept all across. And the talk in the newsroom against conservatives and Republicans was so strong and vitriolic that I think that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I don't belong here. And I left.
I had a similar thing with Juan, except I was a left winger. In high school, I worked for the Nuclear Freeze, and then I got to Berkeley, and in maybe 6 weeks to 12 weeks, when I saw the end result of leftism, I became a conservative.
Like electric shock therapy.
Yeah, you become a conservative after being around liberals, and you become a libertarian after being around conservatives.
Is that right?
Because there's moralism on both sides that is sanctimonious crap.
What are you going to morph into next?
I don't know, Kimberly. I'm going to become a Kimberly Con.
Morph into the evil.
Okay.
Yes, Kimberly Con. I don't even know what that is. Just means I'll stalk her. All right, up next this weekend, a Fox News special takes you inside Trump Tower for a rare and revealing look at the personal life of the president-elect. A sneak peek of that when we return.
President-elect Donald Trump has been a successful businessman and reality star, but he's rarely given an inside look at his personal side until now. In a new special airing tonight here on the Fox News channel, Mr. Trump reveals to TMZ's Harvey Levin some exclusive details about his family and childhood, including how he felt being sent to a military boarding school as a teen. Here's a preview.
Well, my father thought it would be good for discipline reasons.
That's a pretty extreme thing to send your kid away to upstate New York. What kind of discipline problems were you having?
Well, I was just somebody that was rebellious.
Did you resent your dad when he sent you?
No, not at all. I understood.
Did he sit you down and say, here's why?
Well, he said, I want to shape you up.
Joining us now, Harvey Levin, host of Objectified Donald Trump. Harvey, thanks for being here. This is going to be must-see TV tonight on Fox News. You taped this 2 months ago, September 15th?
Yes, and you know, we have all seen a side of Donald Trump over the last 16 months that is almost kind of linear, that it's this kind of, you know, very self-assured, strong guy. There is another side to him that a lot of people haven't seen, and I think it comes through on this show, where we go through his penthouse and look at objects that he's acquired through his life from childhood on, and use the objects as a jumping off point to talk about what was going on. And you're going to hear Donald Trump talk about successes, but also failures, fears, shortcomings. He is very candid in this.
We're going to take it around the table, Harvey, if you don't mind. We're going to start with Greg Gutfeld.
Speaking of objects, Harvey, where's your soda?
Here you go.
Oh, you're not even. Where's your big gulp? And what do you normally drink?
Okay, small gulp.
You're cutting back, I see.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have a question?
No.
right.
That was my question.
All right, we'll go to Kimberly.
Oh, my God. Hi, Harvey. How are you? Good to see you.
Hey, Kimberly.
So I'm really excited to watch this because I'm curious what the reaction is going to be by his detractors and those that really like to spew vitriol about somebody that they don't really know, because I find that from the reviews and what I've read about it, it's going to be quite revealing and humanizing him.
Yeah, Kimberly, I think that everybody has seen one side of Donald Trump and only one side for 16 months. This will be a very different view of him. My personal opinion is that Donald Trump is a combination of these two people. And, you know, will it change minds? I don't know. And frankly, I'm not trying to change minds. I just want to show who this guy is day to day, and then you mesh it together. Some people are going to change their opinion about him, a lot of people aren't, but I think this is going to give you at least a perspective, and that was kind of the point of all of this, that you're going to have to now judge what is the combination that makes up Donald Trump? And I don't think people have seen this side to be able to even figure that out, and hopefully that will help them tonight.
All right, one last quick question from Eric Bolling.
Hey, Harvey, how did you get this access? This is pretty amazing access to a man whose time was very valuable, especially, I guess, in September? Boy, a couple of months before the election.
Well, Eric, I will say this, that he was extremely busy that day, and you know, I've known him for a while, and I've known him really as the star of The Apprentice, you know, for years. And when he said he would do this, he didn't bank on having to go to New Hampshire later and do a show later. And it got to a point where he said, "Look, I've got to go." And I said to him, "You can't go. I've got to finish the show." And we have this at the end with the outtakes. But at one point, I literally blocked the doors. We couldn't leave. And the Secret Service were standing there laughing. But I said, I have to finish this. And he was great about it. And when we actually went from object to object, he was really in the moment. And again, I'm pretty proud of this because I really do think you're going to see a side of Donald Trump that a lot of people just have not seen.
Congratulations. Looks outstanding.
Looking forward to
Very
it.
grateful for your time, Harvey. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Objectified Donald Trump airs tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern here on the Fox News Channel. One More Thing is up next.
Big show on the O'Reilly Factor. Guess who's calling in? Yep, Bill O'Reilly will be calling in to talk about the Sessions appointment. Also, Mike Huckabee, Rand Paul, and Rick Grinnell will be on that show. Big show. But Congressman John Lewis is a civil rights icon. John Lewis is an amazing man. Watch him accepting the National Book Award.
And I remember in 1956, when I was 16 years old, with some of my brothers and sisters and cousins, going down to the public library, trying to get library cards. And we were told that the library was for whites only, not for colors. And to come here, receive this award, this honor with this.
Congratulations, Congressman John Lewis.
Wonderful. Very moving. Dana.
Indeed. Well, a happy birthday to Mickey Mouse, 88 years old today. And tomorrow, no time like the present to go down to Florida. I'm going to be on the, let me tell you about Jasper Book Tour tomorrow. The Villages at 10.
Oh, wow.
I can't wait to be there. And then I'll be in Lakeland, Tampa, and Fort Myers tomorrow night, and Miami Book Festival on Sunday. So hope to see you down there if you are in the Sunshine State. Felt Jasper will be attending.
We love the Villages.
Yes.
We adore the Villages. The great people. They love the Five.
We are moving there. Probably sooner than we think. Right? Okay, Greg especially.
Love the Villages. Love Mickey Mouse. 88.
88. Looks good on him.
He still fits into those little shorts.
Oh, I know. I own them.
Oh, boy.
All right. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock, the Greg Gutfeld Show. I got Pete Hegseth. Everybody loves Pete, as they say. James Rosen, you know James. Really smart dude. Kat Tim Tyrus, 10 p.m. Saturday.
Okay, you run out of time. Okay. Get him off the screen.
Sunday.
Okay, stop. All right, so in another cute episode of Animal Videos, in the spirit of it's been a long week, because remember we had a show on Sunday and now we're here on Friday, so I wanted to get some inspiration for how to relax this weekend. Take a look at this. A little rub there, a little touch there. This relaxed koala, he really gets it. A resident of Symbio Wildlife Park in Australia. Aww. And I think it's so cute, Greg. You must have such envy.
No, I do, but you know they're miserable creatures. They're not friendly. They're horrible, horrible animals.
Well, they really look like
the cuter they are, the meaner they are. Trust me, Kimberly.
He's a good boy. He's a good boy.
Blonde or girl.
As the saying goes, you can't bury your head in the sand forever, but one Georgia man, boy, he's trying. Joe Chandler of Atlanta still does not know who won the presidential election. He works at home, and he has pledges from friends and family not to tell him. Chandler, fed up with the political system like so many people, went to bed on election night without learning the results. When he woke up the next day, he said he felt so peaceful, he decided to wait a couple hours to find out. A couple hours have now turned into a week, and Chandler says he doesn't want to know at all. Here he is wearing a sign that says, I don't know who won. Don't tell me. Please don't tell me.
Donald Trump.
He said, Donald Trump. By the way, he says it's very peaceful.
You know he's watching,
in his bubble of ignorance.
Okay, but somebody could point to a T-shirt and be like,
yeah, apparently his daughter told him that there have been protests, but he doesn't know who's protesting about what.
Oh, I think that's going to be Greg, because he's this close to the whole Beautiful Mind situation. He's going to lock himself in some room and with the bubble suit.
What makes you think I don't do that already, Kimberly?
Oh, you totally do.
Kimberly Kahn.
That's just on Wednesday.
It's just me in a room, pictures of you.
Oh, my God.
Join the club. That's it for us.
Goes on forever. Don't yell at me in my ear.
Thanks for joining us. We're going to see you back here on Monday. Special Report is next. Bye.